So, okay, how to create worlds. So I have created slides that are like a basic ABC thing for creating worlds, and here they are. The ABC of world building. So often, especially if you're creating a world for a video game, or maybe a role-playing game, then it might be a good idea to think of the world as a character of its own with a personality, and maybe with an attitude as well. For instance, if I'm thinking about Finland in general, as like what is the attitude of Finland towards human beings? Like it's not very friendly as such. Like I'm thinking of the climate, and so if you go into the forest or into nature at any time of the year in Finland, and you don't have like anything with you, like water or shelter, then in 24 or maybe latest 48 hours you'll be dead. So we're not living in a necessarily friendly world. And if you go into any forest in the summer, then the world is full of creatures that want to eat you, like or at least suck your blood. But that's something we are used to. So think about the attitude of your world and the personality of your world. What is it like? But if we think of Finland as the cities and how the society works, then that's a little bit different. Maybe it's not so hostile, at least for people who have been born in Finland. And I've heard lots of stories of those who were not born in Finland and have come here, how hostile this country can be. But that's another story altogether. Okay, so what are the physical characteristics of your world? That's always good to start with, like the smells and what it looks like, how it feels, how does it sound. So here are just some examples of those details. So, and you don't need to describe everything. So I'm now thinking maybe more of prose than screenwriting, because in screenwriting you have to describe the world in like very briefly, but you can do it also there using this zooming in technique, where you have just a couple of details. And then paint the picture using those little details. And of course, using your own experiences, your own physical experiences of this world, that's really important too. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please? No, can't hear you at all now. Okay, so maybe you can put it in the chat. Ah, okay. Okay, that's where you start with, and where you also go back to these physical realities. Then there's consistency, and I could talk about this, but I'm trying to be brief now. And actually, everything that I say after this is practically part of this inner consistency, inner logic of the world. How does your world work? Like, well, I take the example that if there are people in the world, which is usually the case, how do they reproduce? Like, are there children in the world? And if there are no children, is there like an explanation for that? If you don't see any children anywhere, are the children all in school? What kind of schools are there? Are there universities? All of these things can give you also fuel for your story and things for your characters to do, by the way, and more problems to face. And like, if there are young people, then there should be also older people, and very old people, and also very young people. Like, this is something I see in many science fiction stories that have been written by people in their 20s, that the world seems to be populated only by young men and young women who are like 25 years old, and then there are maybe 2% of the population are men or over 50 years old or around 50 years old, and then there are no old women at all, and also there are no children in that world. So it's very strange. Like, where do the people come from? Are they just do they come from eggs, or are they just created like poof? So consistency. So what are the chains of causes and consequences in your world? And I took that example that if you have a population where people get very old, like 250 or 300 years old, that will make the society and structures of families look very much different. So if people would live like 300 years old, then we would have Napoleon, for instance, in French politics still, ranting about something that happened like in 1800 and something. That would be fun, by the way, or maybe not. So that was just one example. That think the logic of your world through when you're making a world. So obviously this is for stories in genre worlds like fantasy and science fiction and speculative fiction in general. But also if you're having your story happen in the so-called real world, it's always your take on the world. It's your point of view, how you understand the world to work. Okay, then there's the geography, climate, ecology, things like that. Like, what are the physical circumstances of your world that you're making? I mean, this might be some people's dream that, okay, they love to draw these maps and see where the oceans go and where the rivers are and so on. But also keep in mind that there should be some people, and these climate and geography, it affects also the cultures of the people that are living there. And reading is a great way to do your research, like reading books of general science and magazines such as Nature or Scientific American or New Scientist is good too. So know where to get your information. I think some geologist has tried to analyze how the rivers of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings of the Middle Earth go, and they don't make any sense. But well, it it still works kind of as a story. Okay, so then closer to the humans, to the people, what kind of histories they have, what kind of cultures they have, how is the economy, like that sounds boring, but it's actually how what people trade with each other, how do different cultures communicate, and also it's about conflicts, because many conflicts come from economy. Like somebody wants the water from a river that flows through 3 countries, and the first country is damming the river, so making the people from the 2 other countries angry, and then there's war. That has happened in human history. So do your research on real cultures and periods of history, and of course follow the news of now. So not just what has happened, but what is happening right now. And I've talked about the hows and whys before, and I'm saying it again. Like, think about why are these 2 cultures now at war, or why are they not at war right now, although they have been for most of their history, like for instance France and Germany are great friends right now, or at least it seems so to the outside. Okay, so what's the attitude and the personality of the world? Well, I already talked about that. So how does the world treat your main characters? So also it's a good way of spicing up a scene, that you have your character wants to go somewhere, and then there's like rain and sleet and wind and everything, and they are already angry, and then they are even angrier after that. Okay, and have fun when creating your world. That's like a main thing, of course. That images from all, I think, by the way.